Hello and welcome on my YouTube channel. So today the topic is rethinking vehicles and transport, and this is part B. So we already have this video which is about part A, and we want to dig now into other vehicles here. What will be the content? So in part A, this was about basic physics and whether all these equations fit to the reality. And part B is then now the evaluation of the Podbike and Acabion vehicles. Then we are looking at a realistic approach for an efficient vehicle. We are looking at results for an efficient human-powered vehicle. And last but not least, we are talking about important aspects for a good efficiency and the summary. So we are starting here with a Podbike. This is a screenshot which has been taken from the webpage here. And yeah, you can see it's a bicycle, a very small vehicle. And what you also see here is that we have very small tires here, which will result to a good rolling resistance factor here. And yeah, let's look at the technical data of the Podbike. So the original idea was that this car should have a mass between 55 and 65 kilograms, so approximately 60 kilograms. Unfortunately, this is not true anymore. So it turns out that it has a mass of approximately 100 kilogram at the end. So for the production, unfortunately. So the rolling resistance factor is 4 thousandths with racing bike tires. So this is very good here. And the front area is about 0.9 square meter, resulting from 80 centimeter width, such that this vehicle can still drive on bike ways in Europe. And you have a height of approximately 1.1 meter. The drag coefficient factor is about 0.2, so 20 hundredths. Yeah. It's a little bit better than a Tesla Model S here. And what can be achieved with such data? So I have here the comparison between the Uno, the scooter, and the Podbike. I have here the rolling coefficient with 4 thousandths. I have a mass of 145 kilogram, which results from 65 plus 80 here, a drag coefficient of 20 hundredths, an area of approximately 0.9 square meter, and I have here again an efficiency factor of 0.81. And if this vehicle could drive 80 kilometers per hour, then we would have just a consumption of 2 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometer. And this is much, much less than an Uno would have if this vehicle could drive 80 kilometers per hour, because this would be more than 6 kilowatt hour here. And this is just the result of the better drag coefficient here. Now we have approximately the factor 3 for the drag coefficients factor between the Uno and the Podbike. And this is then the result here. A statement also was that the Podbike has the target of approximately 100 watt at 30 kilometer per hour, and I evaluated whether this is possible. But if I do this with the equations here, and I'm assuming here still an efficiency factor of 0.81, because we have two motors here in the e-bike. Yeah? So it's not that you are driving directly the wheels with your feet. This is not the case. You have two electrical motors here. And from that point of view, I think the efficiency factor is in the right order here. But if I see this, I'm coming only to approximately 26 kilometer per hour for 100 watt. So yeah, the 30 kilometer per hour with 100 watt is not possible from my point of view. And we have a second effect, that the weight of the production vehicle will not be 65 kilogram anymore. It will be around 100 kilogram. So, and why 100 watt? Yeah, because usually a human being can have a bike force of approximately 100 watt, not only for a few seconds, for hours. That's the reason for that. Yeah, what are the pros and cons of the Podbike? Yes, excellent rolling resistance coefficient, that's clear. We saw this. Originally, it was a very low mass, so 60 or 65 kilogram, inclusive a shell and inclusive also a good suspension is really a good value. But unfortunately, for the production vehicle, we don't have it anymore, unfortunately. But we have a weather protection here, and you can drive this even in the winter. And you have a reasonable price of approximately 5k euro. But this is only a price without tax, without delivery. So at the end, I think it will cost around 7k here in Germany. Yeah, the cons, the drag coefficient is not really much better than for the Tesla Model S. So, okay, it's 20 hundredths compared to 24 hundredths for the Tesla Model S, but not really much better. And also one disadvantage, I think, is that it's from a legal point of view only a bicycle. Yeah? You have only 250 watt power assistance here. That's not very much. And the other critical point here is, what about braking distance? We have these very small tires, and yeah, so downhill you can maybe ride up to 60 kilometers per hour. So this is already a quite high speed downhill, and if you then have to do an emergency brake, what's then? I think the brake distance will be quite large. Let's go to the Acabion vehicles here. These vehicles exist only in the simulation. So this Acabion company has been founded by Peter Maskus, and he has done a lot of simulations together with the ETH Zurich in Swiss. And yeah, what you see here is one of his simulations for a truck here, for this so-called Acabion truck. And you see that he has simulated a drag coefficient of approximately 500. So even smaller than a boxfish. Of course, this truck here has a very strange shell here, but yeah, from the point of simulation, such values are possible. And what I did as next here is, in one of his videos, there was a statement that it has less consumption than two Model S. So this means that this truck must have approximately half the consumption of one Model S at 100 kilometer per hour. So the blue curve is the Model S which has here approximately 18 kilowatt hours consumption per 100 kilometer at this speed. And then I'm calculated here for the truck. So here this drag coefficient from the simulation. We have an area which is 5.2 square meters for the truck. And yeah, I'm calculating here with very small rolling resistance factors here. And here also the eta is very small. So in the violet curve, it's 0.9. And even here for that curve, we see it's not the half. So we must come down to 18.5. So this means 9 approximately. And this can be reached only here with the green curve. And in the green curve, I assumed a rolling resistance factor only of 4 thousandths and an eta, an efficiency factor of 0.95. So yeah, this seems to be not very realistic here. But let's jump to other examples for Acabion vehicles. And this is now a two-wheeler. And we see that this has a lot of advantages because first of all, you are sitting here in this vehicle back to back and not side by side. So this means you have a reduction of half of the area, the front area. And the other important factor is that you are not really sitting here in this bike. You are almost laying here, yeah, like in a sofa. And this also reduces the front area, apart from the fact that you have here a very good drag coefficient for this type of vehicle. And one of his statements in his videos was that for 90 kilometer per hour, the consumption can be only 0.5 kilowatt hour. So this is a completely different range of consumption here. And yeah, what did I assume here? I'm assuming here bike tires with a rolling resistance of 6 thousandths. I have a mass here of 150 kilogram. So this is approximately in the range of 65-70 kilogram for the vehicle itself, and then 80 kilogram for the driver. A drag coefficient of 4 hundredths. We have a very small area of half square meter, and we have an efficiency factor of 0.9. Yeah, maybe this can be reached with new electrical motors. And then you see really here in this graphic, the consumption can be for 90 kilometers per hour only just half a kilowatt hour. That's really amazing. The next vehicle what we are looking at is his Acabion CityJet. So this is a vehicle where up to 3 persons can sit or 2 persons plus luggage here. And this has been developed for Thailand. And yeah, let's see. And it's also looking quite nice from my point of view. So for this example, for this vehicle, I have also a similar mass. Then the rolling resistance coefficient is also 6 thousandths. The drag coefficient 4 hundredths. And the area is here, of course, bigger. That's clear. So not so small anymore due to the width and the height of this vehicle. And again, an efficiency factor of 0.9. And then you can reach a consumption of 1 kilowatt hour for a driving speed of 90 kilometers per hour. This is also a very good result. So what are the Acabion pros and cons? So first of all, we have excellent drag coefficients, even smaller than for a boxfish. We have excellent small front areas, especially for this two-wheel vehicle. But the cons are, of course, there is no real prototype available for the proof of concept. And yeah, especially for the two-wheeler, you would need self-balancing. And we saw this in the example of the company Lit Motors with this vehicle C1. It's not really deployment ready, this technology for self-balancing. But if this comes available in the next years, that would be really great. And then another point is, my question here is, do simulations take into account that entry openings lead to imperfect surface? In the simulations, you maybe don't have this, and this will make the difference between simulation and a real-life vehicle. Yeah, but what about a realistic approach? So no simulations and trying to get a realistic approach. So I was thinking about a four-wheeler with a thin shell as a Acabion city jet, as we saw before. So 1.2 meter width and 1.3 meter effective height. A box-like fish drag coefficients. So I'm not assuming 400s, I'm assuming 600s here. And I'm assuming a pod-like mass, so not 60 kilogram or 70 kilogram, so 100 kilogram. I think this is an appropriate assumption here. And also Podbike-like rolling resistance of 6,000 here. And then I'm implementing a hub motor with 4 kilowatt in each wheel here. And it should be, of course, an electric vehicle, and therefore I have a battery here, and the battery should be 2.5 kilowatt hour. Yeah, it must not be from the company Kreisel. This is an Austrian company which has a very good building principle of batteries. They are using laser technology here. So this is very good, but it must not be, it can be any battery. It has to be only a small weight for this energy of 2.5 kilowatt hour. What we would get with that. So you see here the data. So the blue curve is for one person, the magenta curve is here for 2 persons. And yeah, here are the data, which I assumed. And I'm also using here an efficiency factor of 0.81. And what you can see, for 75 kilometer per hour, we would have a consumption of 1.2 kilowatt hour or 1.25 kilowatt hour approximately. And this means at 75 kilometer per hour, with this 2.5 kilowatt hour battery, you could drive 200 kilometer. And yeah, this would be sufficient from my point of view for a city and country vehicle here. Yeah, then what about the acceleration here? So if I have a 4 kilowatt motor per wheel, so what is then the acceleration? And the acceleration here from 0 to 75 kilometer per hour with 16 kilowatt is approximately 4.2 seconds. This is also then a quite good acceleration here. Yeah, I'm calling such a vehicle type pod jet. And as I said, it could serve as a city and countryside electric vehicle, not highways, because yeah, you would need more speed. In Germany, you would need at least 100 kilometer per hour. I think this will be too dangerous here for such a vehicle. As I said, you have approximately then 200 kilometer range. at 75 kilometer per hour with such a 2.5 kilowatt hour battery. And such a battery you can still put out of the vehicle and maybe charge this outside the vehicle. This would be also a good benefit here. We have an acceleration in less than 5 seconds from 0 to 75 kilometer per hour with such a 16 kilowatt total motor power here. And you could transport 2 persons plus baggage or up to 3 persons. And from my point of view, I think this could be realized with available technique for about 7k euro. Yeah, it's maybe getting more expensive and it's maybe without any tax and so on, but this should be possible from my point of view. Yeah, but now we are jumping to another type, because first we talk about Acabion vehicles which don't exist really, only in simulations. We have talked about my own idea. Now we are talking about a realistic thing which really exists. And we have here an HPV, a human-powered vehicle, and this is already some years ago. So this is from 2017, and this vehicle is, his name is Aerovela Eta. And the important thing is that just with a human power, you can reach 140 kilometer per hour top speed, and the consumption for 100 kilometer per hour is only 260 watts. And this is really, really great. So here is a snapshot from their videos. Here they are talking about what are the parameters of this vehicle. And for this Aerovelo Eta, we have a drag coefficient of less than 400. So you can see such things are not really future stuff. It can be realized. And also here the area is very, very small. So even smaller than half a square meter. So it's 0.325 square meters. And if I feed my equations with such data, so the mass is approximately 35 kilogram for this bicycle here. And yeah, you see, you can really reach this. So I'm assuming here an efficiency factor of only 0.97, because we have only the human being, which is directly driving the tires. So we don't have a battery, we don't have an electric motor in between. And from that point of view, this is may realistic, this efficiency factor. And as you can really see, yeah, 260 watt only is needed if you want to drive 100 kilometer per hour. Yeah, let's come to an end. What are the important aspects here? What we need is a very light shell for the optimization of the drag coefficiency factor, not necessarily for the body protection. Yeah, this can maybe done inside the vehicle. And we need an optimization of the drag coefficiency, maybe not only via the shell form, maybe also via the surface structure here of this shell. This is maybe also important. No? Of course, the upper shell have to be transparent for seeing forward and also backwards, and for having maybe mirrors inside the vehicle, or cameras inside the vehicle, that you have always the right view around the vehicle. And yeah, you saw this in this HPV, that it was only a white color, because here in this HPV they had a camera, and he's only looking with the camera outside. And what we need is a water repellent surface. So we need to get rid of these wipers. This is not good for drag coefficients. I think that's clear. And also we need to get rid of this vehicle license plates. So in our times, we must have different solutions for that, that we don't need anymore these plates. And one of the big topics here, I think, which are not addressed up to now, is that we need somehow tires with a flexible rolling resistance coefficients. We must have it low for the rolling, but high if we want to brake. I think we have this problem already here with a Podbike. If you drive 60 kilometers per hour downhill and you have to make an emergency brake, I think, yeah. And then one other topic is maybe also that we use infrared heating for low energy heating in the vehicle here. Because with infrared heating, you don't need anymore to heat up the air in the vehicle. You can directly heat up the body of the driver here. Yeah, what can be summarized here? The consumption could go down to 1/2 if you would not sit side by side, if you would sit back to back. This is one important aspect here. And the consumption could go down to 1/4 or even more with a drag optimized shell. So I'm not assuming that you go down to 400s or 500s. So in today's models, as for example the Tesla Model S, we have 2400s, and factor 4 means 600s. And I think this is possible because we saw this for the HPV. There we have already 400s for the drag coefficient. Yeah, and the consumption could go down with optimized tires and low weight. I don't know why we need 2000 kilogram or more for the transport of 1 or 2 persons. And yeah, also optimize tires, I think, are important because you can come down from 12 thousandths to 6 thousandths for the rolling resistance coefficient. Yeah, and this means altogether it could be reached 10 times less consumption if you take all the points above here. And you would need 10 times less battery. So you don't need any more 60 kilowatt hour batteries or 100 kilowatt hour batteries. Yeah. So I showed this example with 2.5 kilowatt hour battery for such a car where you can have a reach of 200 kilometers. So this would be then not a problem anymore. Yeah, I hope this has a good insight given to you. What is the real problematic here? The biggest problem from my point of view is that we don't see the air. We don't see the turbulence which is caused by today's cars. If we would see this in a type of color, I think then it would be different. And I also don't see that a car manufacturer will go for this approach in the next years. I think this will maybe only come together if we have autonomous fleets in a few years. Because then you have a company which wants to have really efficient vehicles where the design itself is not so important anymore. Yeah, okay, that's it for this session. And I hope we see us again in one of the next videos. Thank you and bye-bye.